TCU landed a four-star edge rusher over the weekend. Are we seeing the tide begin to turn again for Sonny Dykes on the recruiting trail? We'll talk about that next. Here on Locked On Horned Frogs, it's your team every day.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. Welcome into the show. If you've been like, where have the shows been? That's a fair question. I've been on vacation. I was with my family in Gulf Shores for a few days, and I was going to do an episode while I was there, but then I decided not to. And that's the end of the story. So sorry about my absence, but I'm back. We're in the month of June, rolling along, and there's big news coming here in a moment. TCU landed a four-star edge rusher, Chad Woodfork, a big target of theirs they've been working on for a while. Got that commitment on Friday. If you're watching on YouTube, don't worry about your computer or try to adjust the lighting. The lighting in my in-laws' house is kind of strange, and so it's created a weird effect on my camera. But I'm here. We're doing a show today, and I'm glad to be talking to you guys about the TCU Horned Frogs. So TCU on the recruiting trail. They landed Chad Woodfork, a four-star defensive end from humble Summer Creek High School. And this is a very highly rated player. If you have been one of those people that has questioned over the past few weeks and months, and I guess maybe year and a half, about TCU's momentum in high school recruiting, they've been going after a lot of guys that I would categorize as high ceiling players, developmental players, meaning good physical gifts, good tools, maybe in some cases some nice offer list, but not super highly rated by recruiting services. Those ratings are not the end-all, be-all, but they do give us a good indication of where the talent lies. And I think that was a fair question, and it has been for a while. For the record, by landing Woodfork, TCU ranks 16th in the country. Well, excuse me, they ranked 16th in the country when they landed Chad. When I checked before I recorded this on Monday night, they were at 19th. They're second in the Big 12 behind Arizona State. Arizona State's number one. They got 16 commits. TCU has 12. But Woodfork is one of those blue chip, can't miss type of prospects that a lot of you have been kind of clamoring for lately when we talk about TCU and recruiting at the high school level. When you put on the tape, really athletic player, 6'4", 220 pounds, and a little bit of an edge rusher hybrid type, which is the type of player they've been going after. I assume that Chad, I think honestly he could project as a stud linebacker or as more of your hand-in-the-ground defensive end, because a lot of his highlights, at least from his junior season, he was more of the traditional hand-in-the-ground defensive end type of player at Summer Creek, but also was in some edge rusher situations. Great athleticism, great speed. You see the first step, the get off. All of that's fantastic. Good hand placement, violent, getting offensive linemen off him, and in a lot of cases, just being able to get to the edge and bend around the corner and use that speed to get to the spot before anybody really has a chance to make anything happen. And once again, this is another player, and TCU's recruited a lot of these guys in the 2025 class. We've talked about Ken Wilson, Andy Avalos. They've made it a big-time priority to go get linebackers, whether it's Keelan Abrams at DeSoto, who in similar kind of mold to Chad is a edge rusher type, outside linebacker type. They also have landed Dylan Arkansas from Denton Ryan, who's more of an inside linebacker, Sam Haley, inside linebacker, John Schobel, who could maybe come down defensive end. Right now he's playing more of a middle linebacker at Columbus, and Woodfork, who is an edge defensive end type on the outside as well. But a number of these guys that I just mentioned, when you watch the highlights, one thing you see, if you're going to try to run slow developing plays, whether that's zone reads, RPOs, or the quarterback is riding the running back at the mesh point for a few moments, trying to engage the defense, see what they're going to do, and then use their reaction to his advantage, or screen passes, draw plays, all those things. These types of players that TCU is landing with the athleticism they have, and you see it when you turn on Chad Woodfork's tape, they just blow up those plays. And, I mean, there were multiple instances where they're running away from Chad on the other side of the formation. And I'm sure in a lot of cases, your tackle goes on a down block. You just leave that guy unblocked and you say, hey, he's not going to be able to chase it down. We're running away from him. It doesn't matter. Well, when Chad Woodfork's on the other side, he's running those guys down at the high school level. And it just shows the explosiveness, the ability to read and react, to process what's going on, and blow up those plays before they start. And this is the identity of the Indianapolis defense that we're kind of seeing unfold on the recruiting trail, causing havoc, creating negative plays, making things happen. And when you look at Chad's offer list, I mean, it's the best of the best in the country. It's a little bit of everyone. So a really good addition by TCU. He had offers from Arkansas, Baylor, Duke, Georgia, Michigan, Nebraska, Ole Miss, Texas. I mean, anyone and everyone has been after Chad Woodfork on the recruiting trail, and TCU able to get the job done, get him committed to the 2025 class, and continue to build this thing as they move forward on the recruiting trail. So 19th in the country, second in the Big 12. And we're starting to get to that time of year where, I mean, it's not the end-all be-all, these rankings right now and kind of where they stand in the composite. But, I mean, with the early signing day, with the calendar and how much it's changed because of NIL, because of the transfer portal, I feel like, start of June, that's when you do start to look at those rankings and say, okay, who is building a big-time class, who is shaping up to make this happen? And TCU is right in the thick of it, in the top 20 in the country right now. And maybe this is a little bit of a reset after last season where you had some struggles on the field. I think also coming off the national title appearance, coaching staff kind of swung for the fences, went after some guys that maybe typically they wouldn't be super involved with. And when they didn't land a few of those players, they kind of had to regroup, start from scratch. There's also been just a need to get a lot of immediate help out of the transfer portal. So get a ton of experienced guys who can step in right away, fill roster holes, and allow you to have some competency in your two deep at different positions. So maybe 2025 is where we see the turning point in that philosophy to, okay, we're starting to build a foundation with this roster. Now we need to go get big-time players, and we can start competing at a higher level in recruiting because we feel comfortable with the here and now of what we have on campus, that next season we won't be in as tough of a situation in the O-line room, at DB. Whatever the case is, it feels like there is some comfortability that the staff is getting, and it's transitioning to, okay, we can focus more on high school recruiting. So Chad Woodfork, 4-star edge player out of Humble Summer Creek. He commits to TCU, and the Frogs continue to roll along as part of that 2025 class. Another 2025 player that I wanted to mention, Michael Turner, a running back from Merchant High School in North Richland Hills, so right down the road from TCU. Another 4-star player, has again, very impressive offer list. Arizona State's involved, SMU, Baylor, Colorado, Pitt, Texas Tech, Washington, Wisconsin, the list goes on. Frogs getting involved in his recruitment as well. Jeremy Clark posted an article yesterday that says communication is going great between TCU and 4-star running back Michael Turner. According to Jeremy's reporting, Jimmy Smith, new TCU running backs coach who came up from Arkansas this offseason after Anthony Jones left for USC, is starting to get his bearings. He's reaching out to players regarding that 2025 class, and Michael Turner's on the radar. There's been some communication back and forth, and so hopefully the Frogs can get him in for a visit this summer. And this would be great. I don't really worry so much about recruiting skill players while Sonny Dykes and Kendall Briles are in charge of the offense. I just think TCU is always going to have talent there. And they might lose individual recruiting battles, but I feel like overall, and I would love to have Michael Turner. I'm just saying, like, the most encouraging thing to me about what they've done on the recruiting front lately. And in 2025, it's been mainly front seven, defensive line and linebackers, especially linebackers, going heavy linebackers so far, as they kind of rework this defense and run a lot of new formations and all that. But big time players in the trenches, physical players on defense. I'm excited that they're getting those types of guys. I think there's always going to be plenty of talent around the Metroplex available to TCU at wide receiver, running back, and at those places where they can, find the right person to fit what they want to do. Michael Turner is a big time talent, and that's exciting that he is at least, opened up the door to some communication with TCU, as SMU and Arizona State appear to be the leaders right now, according to 247 Sports. So Frogs Land, Chad Woodfork, 4-star edge player from humble Summer Creek, and also involved in Michael Turner's recruitment, the running back from North Richland Hills, currently attending Richland High School. When we come back, the athletic season is over for TCU. Baseball did not make the tournament. It was, it was a bummer to not have them in the regionals this year, just to not have those games going on. And they're going on, but TCU was not part of it. How do you feel about the big programs in TCU athletics right now? Who has the best outlook? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Let's talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs. If you need help for your business, LinkedIn Jobs is the place to go. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. They help you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like your professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, as always, do apply. Okay, back here on Locked On Horned Frogs. So I want to do a segment, and I want to open it up to the audience here. I'd love to hear from you in the YouTube comments or on Twitter at SimcockSteven. I'll probably post a poll at some point during the day tomorrow, because I think on Wednesday's show we'll kind of dig into this more and get some of your reaction. But the athletic season for TCU is over. There were some big disappointments. Football didn't do what we thought. They ended up 5-7. Baseball started the season ranked in the top 5. They ended up not making the NCAA tournament. Basketball, I think at the end of the day, men's basketball probably reached expectations, at least for me. Now, the end of the season was super disappointing. I'm not saying I'm satisfied with what happened, but before the year, I thought that was a tournament team, and that was about it, and that's what they ended up being. There were times, in like early January where they were playing well in the early part of Big 12 play, and I was like, well, maybe they'll be a group that makes it the second weekend, but that didn't end up materializing. I wanted to know, though, and I'm just going to keep it to 4 sports here. So out of football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball, which program do you have the most optimism about, or do you believe the most in as far as the future of where they're headed, the trajectory, all those things? Which program do you believe in the most right now out of football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball? And yes, I understand I'm leaving out a lot of sports there. Eric Bell done a fantastic job with women's soccer. They have turned into a perennial NCAA tournament team that can make tournament runs. Men's tennis just won a national title. Rifle won a national title. Equestrian had another great year. They made it to the finals. Beach volleyball, another really solid season. Women's volleyball, indoor gym volleyball. doing a great job. They've really turned that program around the last few years. But of those 4 programs, which one do you have the most positive outlook on right now? Mark Campbell, huge offseason. They land Haley Van Lith, Donovan Hunter, Sedona Prince is coming back. On paper, this looks like a team that could be a contender in the Big 12. Depth could be an issue, but their starting 5 is going to be really solid. Madison Connor coming back as well. Maddie Shear from Kentucky. They got a lot of guards who can score. Center and Sedona Prince that has a good mid-range game, can also score down low. I like the pieces to the puzzle there. Men's basketball, nice little offseason, right? I mean, they landed Trezarian White, who's kind of the Emmanuel Miller replacement, averaged 20 points a game at UNC Wilmington. Brandon Wenzel from Wyoming, Noah Reynolds from Green Bay, Frankie Collins from Arizona State, RJ Jones from Kansas State. Another offseason where Jamie Dixon has, to his credit, kind of cobbled together and brought in a good nucleus of talent that hopefully will kind of mesh and grow and develop as the year goes on. Football coming off a disappointing season, looking to bounce back this year. And then baseball, which was in College World Series a few years ago, misses the tournament. So which program do you have the most optimism or most belief in right now? And when I posed this question to myself, or I guess thought of it, women's basketball was the first program that came to mind because there's so much excitement around what they've done. And it's a combination of not only the fact that I think they're going to be a good team, but it's just the buzz of bringing in big names like that. When you don't have a rich history in that sport, it's super impressive. And even through all the turmoil last year of having to forfeit games, not having enough players, things sort of unraveling after a nice start, you can just tell Mark Campbell's a sharp guy. He's a rising star in this industry. He's the right dude for that job. But I ultimately settled on football, which might surprise some of you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I think I'm a bigger believer in Sonny Dykes than most people that might consume this podcast on a daily basis, or that could be unfair, but just kind of the vibe that I get after last year. A lot of people were disappointed, understandably. I still think Sonny's a really good coach. I feel like he said all the right things this offseason. It seems like he's learned from some of the mistakes that they went through last year, lack of leadership, some scheduling issues because of, getting to play in the national title game. And I think they're going to take a step forward this season. And I feel like he is the right person to lead TCU into the new era of college football and just college sports in general. Recruiting has been solid. It could be better, but I think it's been solid, especially in the transfer portal. This coaching staff seems to have a really good grasp on how they need to attack that, a way to kind of balance high school recruiting and transfer portal recruiting when you're attempting to do both simultaneously. And we saw a proof of concept from the football team. We saw a 12-0 season and a playoff win against Michigan. We know that that's possible. For baseball and basketball both, men's basketball, I should say, and we've already kind of seen the men's basketball offseason play out, but this is a pivotal offseason for the baseball team. And there's a lot of areas for improvement. You could argue, well, I think the lineup was the biggest issue this year. But another season where you're trying to kind of MacGyver this pitching staff with duct tape and bubble gum because you don't have more than one quality starter, and another season where it ends in disappointment because you just can't live that way. They sort of figured it out 2 years ago. Sam Stoutenborough stepped up in a big way. But if you don't have depth there, it's going to be tough to compete. So the positions that they target in the portal this offseason, I think will tell me a lot about what Kirk Saarloos is evaluating, what he sees, and where he thinks the future of the program is headed if they're going to have success. And, with men's basketball, same type of thing. Now, I will say, I like the emphasis that they put this offseason on finding guys who can shoot, who can stretch the floor, but it's still going to be a year where you have a entirely new group of core group of players, a lot of new faces. So all that has to come together quickly for this to work. But I want to hear from you in the YouTube comments, and tell me why too, if you don't mind. In the YouTube comments, or I'll probably put a poll up on Twitter, but which program do you have the most belief in right now if you're a TCU fan? Football, men's basketball, baseball, or men's basketball? And what gives you that optimism that that particular program will put it together moving forward? When we come back, we'll wrap things up. A couple housekeeping notes. It's the Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Make sure you check out FanDuel. Man, I'm so pumped for the NBA Finals. Dallas Mavericks back in it after a long hiatus. Luka Doncic has been incredible. Mavs, Celtics. Get your bets in today at FanDuel.com/lockedon. First-time users, $150 in bonus bets when you make one $5 bet. That's right, one $5 bet, win or lose, $150 in bonus bets when you sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can also download the FanDuel app. FanDuel, it's where the game starts. Thankful for their sponsorship and thankful that they're a proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. A couple baseball transfer portal notes, this coming from Jamie Plunkett. TCU infielder Ryder Robinson has entered the transfer portal. As a true freshman, he won the opening day job at third base. Also spent some time at second and short. He hit .215 with 7 doubles and 2 home runs. Jamie did go on to mention there's a chance that Ryder stays with the Horned Frogs. Also, Logan Maxwell is there in the portal. He had a team-leading 929 OPS in 2024, while manning left field, and also spending time as the designated hitter. Both those names are a little surprising to me. Now, I guess nothing should really surprise us in the day of the portal, but Ryder Robinson got a lot of playing time this year. And, he struggled at the plate late in the season for sure, but it was a tough year at the plate for a lot of these guys. And I think, these freshmen that had to kind of be thrown in the fire, I would be more bullish on giving them time to sort of figure this out than some of the vets that struggled this past year. But he's going to, I guess, kind of explore the portal, see what his options are, and maybe he ends up coming back. But, yeah, surprising news that he is looking around. And then even more surprising news, Logan Maxwell in the portal as well. And as Jamie said, he led the team in OPS this year. Logan spent a lot of time at DH because he was just banged up. But he's their best hitter this season, at least from a numbers perspective. And, again, another guy that showed a lot of promise. But overall, just a super pivotal off season for TCU baseball as they try to build this thing back up and figure it out. It'll be fascinating to see the type of players that they go after and target in the portal. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team, and we do it here every day.